Did you pay for your Arcimoto? You
Of course.
did, right?
Full boat. You kidding? They
This is
didn't give me a
important.
bargain at all.
I know.
In a
You
number of
say.
ways, she has.
So the team last night was we were over here, right over there, and they were sort of like, hey, Galley's such a huge influencer. Why don't we just give him give him a discount or give him an Arcimoto?
I don't know. I was like, give that guy a promotion. He's like, great idea.
I was just like, fuck.
It was great though, honestly. It was great. I was like, so I'm buying my Arcimoto and more stock. That's what I heard. I heard that. I was like, nobody's getting free one. Mark is like, there's so many people waiting. Like, that's not fair. I was like, I love it. Like, this is a real company.
People. There's a buddy of mine who knows Michael Jordan, and he's like, would you, if you gave him one, he'd promote it. And I'm like,
It's a solid guy to offer. It's like, damn,
Yeah.
Jordan.
we will, but for me, an endorsement is worthless if we pay for it. It's priceless if it's given.
Right, totally.
So I want people to say what they act. It is incredibly powerful for Arcimoto that you say that you like it because you actually like it, not because I'm paying you to say that you like it.
Yep.
And so, it's like if you want to use your voice to help the world in the way that we want to help the world, and you actually like what we're doing, by all means, please tell the world what you think about our endeavor. Yep. But if the minute that we pay somebody to say it, it's like, it's meaningless.
And especially because you have so many customers waiting who've waited so long and are willing to buy it. It's like, like, why?
Wait, you took the money I invested in your company and you gave a really rich person a vehicle before you built my vehicle? The optics on that are jacked.
Good.
Yeah.
So, but it is kind of, so what I encourage very rich people to do is to buy them for other very rich people. Right? So, hey, you want to show how much you love your friend and love the planet, you pay us money and then you give the vehicle to them. And that actually,
Have you done that?
surprisingly, gotten a lot of traction.
Really?
Yeah.
How many vehicles have you sold that way?
Well, one of our
hard question.
One of our key early investors out of New York has bought several for that he's bought them in order to give them to people he cares about.
Pat Kilkenny bought one.
What Tesla did on Battery Day was just profound. I mean, what are they able to do that was totally new? It was the whole that is a great sum of parts. They looked at every slice of the battery cell, the cell, the size of the cell, how the cell gets rid of heat, and then how the cell is manufactured from raw materials all the way through to finished battery pack. And the summation of all of that, they are aiming for a 56% reduction in the cost of the battery in about 3 years. Sure. But a lot of those savings are going to come online, I think, much more quickly than that. As soon as they get the cells into actual real mass production where they are confident that the yield is there, then all of a sudden they have a massively less expensive, very high performance battery, and they are looking at utilizing different materials for different products. So a shorter range but battery that is made of very abundant iron phosphate, iron dirt, right? It's a super abundant element, and that would be a battery that would be a fantastic base model Arcimoto battery.
Why would they not share that technology with Arcimoto?
Well, so interesting. You should ask the question. Sandy Munro, the guy out of Detroit, right. He has torn down Teslas, and he has posted videos about, he was actually very critical of the Model 3 when it first came out. Not so much the underlying powertrain technology, but all the fit and finish and panels and everything like that. And then he just sort of said, they just completely, with Model Y, he just gushed over it. I mean, just like, this is absolutely fantastic. And in his, he was ecstatic. He was ecstatic after Battery Day, partly because a bunch of the predictions he made came true. Essentially, he's like, "Here's what I think Tesla's going to do," and that's essentially what they did. And then at the end of his video about it, he said, "Hey, Elon Tesla, if I have any cred with you guys at all, I have one favor to ask, which is, will you help me out with 3 projects I'm working on? Arcimoto, Nobody."
Who asked him that?
Sandy Monroe.
Oh, Sandy did.
Yep, in his video. And somebody clipped that little piece of it out and tweeted it and said, "Hey, Elon, what did you see this? What do you think?" And Elon said, "We can't support 3-wheelers, not safe enough."
Really?
Right? Now, a couple of interesting points. One is, it just from a personal life story point of view, Elon crashed a motorcycle when he was younger, nearly died, said Tesla will never make a motorcycle.
Right.
He got a McLaren F1, crashed that, $1 million sports car. So he's very, Tesla's like safety rating, the fact that Tesla is the safest car on the planet and it drives for you, makes a lot of sense when looked at from that lens. Also, not public knowledge, is that Elon is the very first one to ever crash an Arcimoto, a production Arcimoto. He jumped into the driver's seat of a Deos Arcimoto and promptly drove it into a brick wall. So
to test the safety, that's my theory.
But how? Really? How
Yeah,
did
that's
you-
Right? Like on the front lines, bleeding edge of the alpha,
Yeah.
safety test.
So
Like,
based on that, does he feel like that?
Adeo
the
said
way
he was just being a dipshit, but whatever.
You did on purpose?
No, he was just like, "Rah," just cranked on it and was just whatever. It still not entirely clear how it happened. So all that being said,
How do you overcome all that?
well, what Sandy's ask was, can Tesla help us out with these projects? And I think it just wasn't really clear. He's wanting them to be, he's wanting a part supplier relationship. I really just want the cells. What they've done with battery cells is magic. And they are going to have the best cells on the planet. They're going to be in top dog position. They won't be there alone forever. There will be competition that comes. But when you take the very best battery cell that is low cost, and then you think about the fact that Arcimoto, you can build 4 Arcimotos with the amount of material in one Tesla. So if you really care about sustainable transportation, you get 4x the on-road efficiency. It's not just a 56%, it's a 400% improvement.
How do you get around his reluctance to help Arcimoto? It is a motorcycle, it's a 3-wheeled vehicle, he crashed it. That's the worst.
I
I
think
can't believe he crashed your Arcimoto.
Again, you get the lens of safety. And you were talking about safety earlier. It is you as an operator of an Arcimoto, you know that you are in a much smaller vehicle than the vehicles around you.
So
You
drive
know
accordingly.
that if you get T-boned, you're fucked.
Right,
You just know it,
right.
right? So you drive accordingly.
You drive defensively. You drive carefully.
And the alternative is you make it heavier and heavier and heavier and use more material and more material, and you make it bigger and bigger and bigger, and you end up with the road that we've got right now,
Right.
where you pave over half the city, we're gridlocked in every major metro,
Exactly.
and the world burns down. So the concept of safety in the car world has always been about how safe am I in the vehicle I bought.
Mhm.
Not like when you think about the visibility issue that you have in the Model 3, that's a safety issue for everybody else. The fact that you can't see very well out of that very large vehicle that you're in, that poses a safety risk to other people. And a lot of this whole next phase of the world has got to be about not just what's in it for me, but what's in it for all of us. And kind of expanding that lens of safety. And is there, in that spectrum, is there a different place to land than I've got to have my own urban tank to go get a cup of coffee at Starbucks? It's fucking nuts.
Well, I have to confess that when I first got my Arcimoto, it just sat in my garage for 2 weeks. I was afraid to go out in my Arcimoto.
Really?
Absolutely. Did I not tell you that?
No.
Well, now I'm telling you that.
Huh.
I was afraid of it. First of all, it is a motorcycle. I definitely never wanted to own a motorcycle. It just doesn't seem safe to me. It can go very fast. It's big, it's heavy. If it falls down on top of you, you're toast. So I knew it was a motorcycle. It is a motorcycle. That made me reluctant. Then it's small, and I just thought, how's that going to maneuver? Are people going to see me? Am I going to see clearly? I had reluctance, no doubt about it. And finally I thought, this is crazy stupid. I bought this thing to support my son. And now I'm not even driving it. So very tentatively, I decided, okay, I can go around my block at least. That's pretty safe. Holy cow, went around the block. Everyone's just going crazy. They're smiling and laughing and giving me the thumbs up and yelling things like, oh, wow, that's so cool. And I suddenly felt very comfortable. I went around my block maybe 4 times just to be sure that I was in control of this before I went out on the street, the real street. And then I thought, okay, let me just take it to the grocery store, see how that goes. Piece of cake. And as you know, it is my go-to vehicle. I don't need to have anything bigger, anything that can go any farther than that. I live in Eugene, Oregon. Every place I go, I can go using my Arcimoto.
It's the average number of miles people drive every day across the country is 30 a day.
There were times I actually felt kind of guilty driving a car to the grocery store to get 3 things I had to have for my dinner that night. One person, 4,000 pounds, going down the road. That just seemed dumb, and I thought, if I'm doing this, probably everybody else is doing it too. I know they're doing it. You look at who's driving the car, it's one person driving a great big fat car. Why do we do it that way? And this thing is so much fun. Honest to goodness, I make up excuses every day to go out in the Arcimoto. I do. I love it when I forget something now for dinner. It's like, oh golly, I forgot that one ingredient I have to have. Better get my Arcimoto and go to the grocery store. This is the truth. I'm not exaggerating one tiny bit. Every day that Groundworks is open, practically every day, I go on the Beltline out into the countryside up River Road to get some fresh, wonderful thing, like a little box of strawberries. Maybe I get a whole bunch of strawberries and then I give them to my neighbors when I get home because I didn't need that many. I go all the time out there to Groundworks just because it's so much fun to get there. And every time I'd go there, I just love all the responses that you get from everybody. I park it there and people come out and they go, oh, what is that? And that's so cool. And what does it cost? They always want to know that. How fast can you go? Can you take it on the highway, they say? Oh, yes, you can. I said, I don't take it on the highway. I'm an in-town person. But you can take it on the highway. Go 70 miles an hour. I go 35, 40, 45, sometimes 50. That's fast enough for me.
Goodness.
And I can do everything I need to do at that rate. So it's fabulous. I missed it when you took it away the other day. It was like, where's my Arcimoto? That's the one I wanted.
I'm sorry. Thank you for loaning it. Yeah.
It's just so much fun. It's so much fun. I just love it.
Yeah, I believe the errands thing. I was looking for errands to do today. Like, we had like 2 hours to kill, and I was like, perfect. Like, and then Caleb's like worried. He's like, oh shit. And I was like, dude, it could be a while. He's like, yeah, like Mark's house is that way. And I'm like, yeah, we can go like up this hill, and like, there's so much to explore in Eugene. So
much.
I was like, man, it's like a tree forest. It's kind of like one big tree house, basically. Yes. That's how I've been thinking about it.
Yeah.
And then in your Arcimoto, like cruising around with the window, like the whole.
And again, I can see better out of my Arcimoto than I can out of my other car. There's no question about that.
Yeah.
There's no barrier. I don't like to have that big thing on my left-hand side that makes it hard for me to see if there's a car coming up in that lane. So it takes me a long time to make sure I'm safe. I don't just look at the mirror. I look at the mirror, then I go around like this, then I look, it takes me a while to go, okay, there really is no one there. With the Arcimoto, you can tell right away because it's open. You can see everything around you. And I drive very carefully. I think it's the safest vehicle ever I've driven. I really do believe that. For me.
Really?
For me, it is.
Okay.
But I'm cautious. I'm not about to get T-boned. I don't want to be T-boned if I'm in the open air like that. So when I've got a red light and it turns green, I wait just a second to make sure that no one's just trying to jet through the intersection, because I don't want anyone to hit me. But everyone can see this vehicle. It's not, people think it's so small, and it is small, but it's also high. It's higher than lots of other vehicles. I can easily find it in a parking lot because I can see it sticking up like that. It's not hard to find, and people notice it. I feel safe.
And how nice is the acceleration? The little pop. I think that actually adds a lot to the safety too. Because I've been thinking I'm the fastest car on the road from 0 to 10 or 0 to 20.
Right.
And that's, or when I want to go 20 to 30, I'm the fastest too.
Right.
Like that little, if you're already going, you can just,
Once you make the move.
The electric.
That you want to make.
Yeah. And I've noticed that when driving, I feel so much more kind of in control of the road, knowing that I can just there's all these kind of slow boats around me, and I'm just
No, that's really true.
I was when I was riding with Caleb, there was an Arcimoto 8 cars ahead, and I kept being bro, we got to catch up. I was losing. I was oh my god, we saw another Arcimoto in the wild in Eugene, in the Eugene treehouse, and so I was we have to do it. And there was this kind of bike side lane, and there was 8 cars, and I totally could have gunned it, and there was 8, but I think Caleb was freaking out, and he was don't do it. I was I have a savage move in mind, but so I don't know, it's a kind of a new way to drive. But then we ended up cruising past him, and it was an Arcimoto guy, and it was such a funny moment of cruising past him. But I've noticed that, and then it's the torque is.
It's important.
It's important. Fun and safer, for sure.
Well, and I think the other a lot of times the sort of fun of fast cars is that they go really way too fast. The fun you experience in the Arcimoto, you experience at 0 to 15 miles an hour, 0 to 30 miles an hour.
You feel it right away.
Feel the fun. It's the 0 to fun instantly. Right.
Yeah, 0 to fun. Yeah.
Which to me is another. It's just a benefit of the downsizing of the platform. But the reality is that it is a motorcycle class vehicle. It is a small form thing. You know that when you drive it. All of our customers know that. You know it immediately. You know that the vehicles around you are much larger, and that you're at a disadvantage if you get in a tangle, big time.
Yeah. But hundreds of millions of people every day are choosing bikes or scooters or this all around the world. It's just that spectrum of safety, and it's also your Arcimoto, if you're driving 15 or 20 in town, and you're double seat belted and you're super alert and you have the quickness, you can't, it's this, when you said it was the safest motorcycle ever built, I'm that's almost the best tagline.
We aspire to make it the safest motorcycle.
But just that kind of idea
don't make
of
that safety claim.
It's not in a car, but it's not a car safety, it's but if you're gonna do that motorcycle and bike thing, you can still get the whole experience. But it's, I love the double seatbelt personally, because I feel I'm just so locked in,
Yep.
And then with the way it moves, it's and it's just that spectrum, and I've you want to be safe or not, and I think even me, I'm the most cautious person of all my friends, and for me, I'm never doing motorcycles, but the Arcimoto feels so comfortable, 50 miles an hour, no problem,
I agree completely. It feels so safe. You're worried about it before you drive it, and then as you get into driving it and get to understand what it can do, you begin to have total confidence that you are really going to be just fine. I've never felt in danger driving it. Not once.
It's a problem avoidance versus what happens. I think a lot of automotive safety is what happens when I get into a horrible situation.
Right.
And the Arcimoto idea is really do your best not to get into a horrible situation. So what can we do to make it more visible, more maneuverable, stable? Because it is a small form vehicle. You don't want to go toe to toe with a 4,000 pound SUV. But that doesn't, to me, that's just there's a problem that we pack the roads with 4,000 pound super unsafe things. They're safe for the occupants, but they're not safe for everybody else.
Mm-hmm. And humans texting or operating them, not the AI network. It's
right.
Come on, dude, we need, if we're gonna have it, it can't be this guy texting who's driving the death machine too.
But I think you're so aware of safety issues when you drive it. You are hyper alert just because you're a small vehicle.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you know that if you had a tangle with a great big vehicle, you could be in real trouble. So you make doubly sure that's never going to happen. You don't take safety for granted. You think about it all the time. But having said that, I feel very safe in that vehicle. I really do.
Yeah.
I've been driving it nonstop ever since I bought it last March. I always feel very comfortable.
And I think we definitely want to continue to make it, safety is one of the things we must continuously improve.
Oh, I know.
So that's another thing where the engineering support, the only engineering support I would really love from Tesla first up is just if their safety team were to ever workshop it and
have
go,
some tips.
Here's what we would do. We're not going to do it. We won't build this vehicle. But if we were to look at it and say, here is what we would do based on everything that we know about making the world's safest cars, here's how you can make your motorcycle safer. Mm-hmm. And that would help our customers, and that would help the overall mission. I mean, we're on the same team. So
the other amazing is how much you can store in the Arcimoto, even if you don't have the deliverator.
The
even
trunk
if you
is
have the
nice.
It's not just the trunk. It's if you're the only one driving it. There's that seat in the back. I've actually gone to Costco and purchased this huge box of toilet paper, Charmin toilet paper, and I just put it in the back seat.
Bunker
and I
levels
put the
of
seat
toilet
belts around it both ways.
Yeah, well, so
and I'm driving
you're
down
not
the road
worried
with
it's
all
gonna,
my toilet
like-
paper right there.
But you weren't worried it was gonna fly off, like?
No, I put the seat belts around it. I do the same thing when I go out into the countryside and I buy a great big bunch of fruit. It's a huge box I get.
Yeah.
It wouldn't fit in that little thing in the back, but it fits in the seat in the back. And I every time just put the seat belts around it. It doesn't move, safe as can be. I haven't lost a single strawberry going 50 miles an hour. And everybody can see. Everybody knows I use Charmin toilet paper, and they know that I eat an awful lot of fruit.
Are those connected?
It works just fine.
Guys, we should dig in here. These guys made us a phenomenal meal.
That's so interesting to hear your insights, though.
But I
Because
always
you're like
thought
the
this
first
is-
customer. You're like the early adopter.
Cycle
like,
around there.
I always thought, well, I can't ever go to Costco with this thing. I can't go to Costco. It's not going to carry enough. And that's just not
Thank
true.
you.